Okay, we're really recording now. Originally, I thought this podcast would be me with a partner, but I think I'm going to try and wing it on my own and see if I'm able to make it interesting. That being said, I do plan to have a lot of people visit. I like interviewing people and having discussions with others. But today I figured that I would just kind of start my origin story. I also thought I'd be really wearing a really cute turtleneck today, and it's hot as all get out in this office, so here I am in a tank top, like a millennial. I'm Caroline Taylor as of the last 6 months, but for the first 35 years of my life, I was Caroline Stroyak. I was number 4 out of 5 kids. I was a third daughter out of 4 girls. We were homeschooled. We were very religious. My parents are from the Midwest. They settled in Virginia Beach. My dad was military. He did 20 years basically as a pilot and intelligence and all that fun stuff. And so they settled here for his last 8 years, and that's where they had the last 3 children. So I was born in Virginia Beach. I'm technically a local, although sometimes I don't always feel like that because we were so sheltered that I really feel like I didn't even know the city until I became an adult and I lived on my own and I was a mom and all of that. So we spent most of our time at home, like in the house. We had 1 car, and if Dad was not out of town, Dad had the car, unless Mom kept it. We were home a lot. And eventually I'll dive into lots of trauma that I have, and I think a lot of it has to do with being trapped and isolated in the house growing up. But also as an adult now, I understand why my parents did it, because they thought they were protecting us, and in some ways they were. But I wish that we had maybe been prepared to handle the real world more. I feel like I had massive culture shock when I became 18, when I went to college. Stuff that seemed so simple and that most people knew or understood, I didn't. And I felt like I was always trying to pretend like an imposter, that I knew what everybody knew and that I was normal like everybody else. And that's really just not true. I don't think I'm normal at all by like cultural standards. I think that I have a lot of alternative thought. I am very conservative in a lot of ways, more than people my age, more than most women would maybe be. I consider myself a feminist, but I am really conservative, and I believe in a nuclear family. I believe in the role of a husband and a father. I think that children need both parents. I think both roles are extremely important. While I feel like women provide things that men can't, I do think that either parent is capable of supplying the normal primary and secondary parental responsibilities, but it's so much better if you let both parents do it. I think that fathers are capable of getting up at night with the baby, feeding the baby, changing the baby, interchanging, responsibilities, work schedules, all of those things to carry the burden together. Deserve a partner, deserve somebody to support them in the journey, shouldn't have to carry it all on your own. I don't think it makes you weak or less of a woman to want to have the other partner there helping. I think it makes you a better parent to have a break or a support system or somebody reassuring what you're trying to do. I think that it's better for your kids to have an example of a father who is loving and nurturing and listening just as much as a mother who is stern or fun, like the playful parent. Like, it shouldn't always get to be the dad that's the playful parent. So anyway, part of why I wanted to talk about things on a podcast is because I do feel like a lot of people may feel similarly to me on a lot of these topics. Maybe people have gone through a lot of similar experiences. Maybe people don't feel like they're comfortable enough to share it, or people don't want to hear it, and maybe people don't want to hear what I have to say, but it's never stopped me from saying what I want to say, so here I am. So I was sheltered And then when I was almost 15, my mom got diagnosed with a terminal cancer. They gave her 6 months to live. They did a lot of weird suggestive drugs to start to say that maybe this would help kill the cancer. And then she ended up getting accepted into a clinical trial where they they did a blood cell transplant, and it was supposed to be a cure, but it was a trial, and so she was kind of experimented on in a way. And after about 6 years, she ended up passing away when I was just barely 21. And even though she'd been sick, it felt sudden because she had been doing better. So, being homeschooled, most of my high school years and my college years were spent kind of based around taking care of my mom. Our whole lives were redirected to be caretakers for her and help out with her care. And in a way, it kind of made me feel like my life was stunted, that I had to put other things on hold, including just like self exploration and maybe trying to decide who I was and what I wanted to be. None of that mattered really or got delved into until after she passed away. And so I went to a local university for college, but I lived at home. And so I was still in that same structure of having to take care of her or base my whole life around her. And my mom had always been my best friend and, like, was home with her my whole life. So she was the most pivotal person in my life and my best friend. Even if, maybe I couldn't tell her everything I wanted to tell her, I told her almost everything I wanted to tell her. And then a couple weeks before my mom passed away, I met who's now my son's dad, my oldest son. He's 12. And his dad is 12 years older than me. And so I was this young college student and, just trying to figure out what life is all about. Super naive and innocent. I'd only had like one serious relationship. And yeah, he definitely saw an opportunity. And with my mom passing away a few weeks later, it kind of left me open to maybe living a life or following a path that I wouldn't have otherwise. After my mom passed away, I think I felt like I was lost. I was drifting. I was extremely lonely. I felt like I'd lost any family that I had. The family that I did have was so overwhelmed with their own grief and processing that I didn't expect them to, be there for me maybe the way I wanted or needed, but I didn't in a way it felt like I didn't have anybody there for me. And so I think that kind of encouraged me into a situation that maybe for me as a person and as a woman, it wasn't the ideal situation for me. But I fell in love with this person who I thought was something and envisioned this life that maybe I'd have and a family and things like that. And then it didn't really end up that way. And so about 9 months after I graduated college, I got pregnant. And pretty much immediately I was on my own. He always said he would be there for our son, and in most respects he has been, but it was hard to be barely 22, having just lost my mom, just finished college, trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted, and now I have this baby on the way that I desperately wanted, but also had no idea how to handle all on my own. My family, there were no single mothers in my family. Nobody had kids out of wedlock, like my cousins, my aunts. Like, there's just not anything I'd even really been exposed to. So here I am, the Jezebel, breaking the trend and having to forge it on my own. And then the irony is, like, I was so involved in church and like teaching in church, and it was just such a huge part of my life. But that was also really uncomfortable when I was pregnant and not married. And sometimes the way people spoke or treated me made me feel like I was like assumed to be a person that I wasn't, maybe like a promiscuous girl or a lax morally girl, like all these things. And I'm in my head, I was like, that's not who I am. Like, I just fell in love. and thought this person was something that maybe they weren't. Maybe they told me that, maybe I didn't realize it, whatever it may be, but like I was following my heart and just also lost and broken. But that's not necessarily how people viewed me or treated me. And that was quite a lesson for me in stereotypes and people's viewpoint. Another example of that like viewpoint is like if you're a female, if you're a pretty female, if you're a happy, fun female that's maybe considered flirty because she's chatty, like all these things that people just characterize you as, and then that means you must not be intelligent, or you must, have lax morals, or you seek out attention, like all these just really interesting judgments that don't always feel applicable to me. And it's a shame that culturally that's what we do. We apply these labels and expectations to people, women, whether they apply or not, and then we just categorize them in that realm, and good luck if you break it, you know. Yet another reason why I probably want to do this podcast, because I have so many thoughts, and one day I'm going to do big things, bigger than I have, and I want to feel like I'm making a difference. I want to feel like by me not silencing my true feelings and thoughts and opinions on things, which they're all my own. This is all my own perspective, my own opinions. Nobody has told me these things. Nobody has brainwashed me to these things, and I don't get any sort of endorsements or positive monetary whatever for talking about the things that I'm going to talk about. In fact, I don't know how I would ever treat sponsorships or things like that if it ever happened, because I just can't be pointed in a certain way, and I don't do anything for any reason other than it feels like right, or it feels like what I need to do and what I need to say. So if that's a bridge I ever have to cross, I'll figure it out. But I think we have a really amazing generation. I think our country has always been amazing, and it's on the cusp of something bigger, different, who knows? And I don't want to feel like I just sat back and did nothing. I want to feel like I have supported people, community, women, mothers, wives, and so forth. Like I want to support my country. I want to support the future of the country. I want to support what we provide for our boys or our children in the end. I say our boys because my husband and I have 4 boys together. So boy mom, boy thoughts. And eventually I'll address some of those topics on like what it means to raise a man in this society. It's complicated, especially if you want to raise a little more of a traditional man, a masculine man. Sometimes it gets a bad rap, which is sad. And why do we not support women being feminine and independent and alpha and compromising? Like you can be all those things. Like you can be a wife who is assertive and opinionated and independent, but also loving and compassionate, supportive, and one half of a whole, right? Like I just think these are ideas that maybe could come together that don't always get spoken about together. And I'm new to the wife thing, so I'm just figuring it out. Hashtag my parents were married for like 30 years, so there's something there. 35, long time. And honestly, I so wish I could call my mom sometimes and ask her like her perspective on marriage stuff, parenting stuff, because you have your memories of like how you think it went or how they handled it, but then like as an adult I'm like, well, maybe that was different than what I thought I saw. So mom, if there's any way to give me some hints from heaven on what I should be doing or saying, send it. So yeah, I am a real estate agent. I have been for 8 years ish. I love it. It was the best thing that I ever did for myself. It changed my life completely. It allowed me to live independently, make decisions based on just what was best for me and my son at the time. I didn't have to hope to rely on anyone else. And I was able to elevate my son and I to a life and a lifestyle that I wasn't sure if I'd ever attain. You know, I had big dreams, but I didn't know if like those dreams would be reality. And I do feel like real estate in a way allowed me to make it a reality. Also my own determination and hard work. Um, and so, you know, we'll see what the future holds. The last 12 years have been monumental. And I don't feel like I look like the person I was then. I mean, physically is a whole other story, but like emotionally, intellectually, I have definitely evolved. Um, and I'm very proud of that. And I made a lot of mistakes along the way and learned a lot of hard lessons, but that's really maybe what's given me some of my insider self perception. Yeah, we'll talk about those stories eventually. But, you know, I don't have a lot of filter, and I have had a lot of experiences, and I may talk about quite a bit of them, and I hope that it doesn't bother anybody. I'm sure it will, but they're my own perspectives, they're my own memories, they're my own life experiences, and for a long time I haven't said anything about them because I feel like I either have to protect other people or it's uncomfortable for people to hear. And so I silence it, but at the same time, like that is part of my makeup and what's made me who I am today, but also what's given me perspective on a lot of different things. And I feel like with all of the stuff going on lately with Diddy and now Jay-Z, which I knew that was coming, and all of the underlying levels of sexual assault, manipulation, grooming, abuse, trafficking, pedophilia. I hope that word doesn't get me edited. I just think people don't realize how relevant and prevalent those things are to the average person. And most of us don't speak about it or haven't spoken about it. And it's just something that I hope changes in our culture. It's something that I pray my boys rise above. And deep down, I hope I raise my boys to be warriors for those victims or potential victims. I think we're put on this earth to protect each other and love each other, and I don't think that's been happening on a wide scale like it should be. So that's something else that I do plan to speak about. You gotta watch out for the victims. And my husband and I are gonna become warriors for the kids. Go rescue them all. Because it's astounding to me too, like Diddy and Jay-Z, just as examples, are parents, and the things that they may have done or did do to people, young people, children. It's just horrible. How could you? Like how could you? God forbid they also did things to their own children, but I don't understand how you can be one and the same and two different things at the same time, right? Like how do you do that to other people's children and then go home and protect your own? But also, how do you have children and not protect them and or abuse them? It's just beyond me. And I really do hope that all of the truth comes out, and I hope that they do get the repercussions that they so desperately deserve. I hope that they're never free, because I don't think people like that change. I think they will continue to be predators and seek victims and hurt and abuse. And the fact that they've made billions of dollars whilst doing that, and also from doing that, it's just sad. It just shouldn't, our world shouldn't be like that. And then if you really want to delve into it, I'm sure that like there's so many politicians and world leaders that are involved in the same things, that have made money and sought power, achieved power and success at the expense of victims and children, and here we are worshiping these people and their music and their media and idolizing them and wearing their clothing brands. And I mean, I never wore Sean John, but a lot of people did, and never quite understood it though. But I am hoping that Rihanna doesn't get canceled because I love her foundation. I'm wearing it right now. But so far from my limited research, I think she's more of a victim, and in some ways I think maybe she has somewhat escaped that world, but time will tell. So I am now extremely warm in this podcast room and thinking maybe I'll wrap it up a little bit for now and come back with specific topics for you all and maybe some interviewers.